Good evening, everybody. This is the Caribou Planning Board having a workshop for discussion on possible ordinance regarding the use of recreational marijuana in the city of Caribou. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss with members of the city council which are present, as well as any members of the public, what, if anything, we should be doing regarding recreational marijuana in the city of Caribou. I will say that there is already an ordinance that was established, I'm thinking 5-6 years ago, regarding medical marijuana. And this basically comes about as a result of the November referendum that legalized it for the state of Maine, with 62% of the Caribou citizens voting against that referendum. So I guess I would first like to open it up to members of the general public and ask if there is any member of the general public that has any statement they want to make before this group, either for or against allowing recreational marijuana to be sold in the city of Caribou. Nobody? Okay. Members of the city council. Mr. Mayor, do any of you have any comments, statements regarding in which direction they would like to see things go? Although whatever we do here is going back to the city afterward, back to the council afterwards.
Yes, I understand that.
We're the junior varsity. Yes, Phil?
I'd like to make a recommendation that we not allow it in the city of Caribou.
Could you,
All right?
I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah, I'm sorry.
is the microphone picking you up?
It will here in just a second. I forget what I'm supposed to do. Phil McDonough, Caribou. I'd like to make a recommendation that we not allow recreational marijuana operations in the city of Caribou. I base that on it's not an authorized use by the federal government, and also approximately 2,500 of our citizens during the November referendum rejected the referendum. So that's, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm David Martin. I remember 40 years ago growing up, every other town in Aroostook County was dry, and all you were doing is having your own people, your own citizens going next door to buy liquor or beer or whatever. You go to E-Plantation or the little store right on the border between Presque Isle and Mars Hill. That was a gold mine. But why pass up on the business? I'm not talking about maybe having these, having a bar-like thing, but I'm saying if it's legal to sell it, I think we should allow it to be sold. Why send all our money to Presque Isle or somewhere else? And if we only choose to follow the laws that, you know, it's a majority. It's not just Caribou. The state voted for it, so if it's a law, it's a law. Thank you.
Any of the planning board members have any questions for either of these two gentlemen that just spoke?
Yeah, one question I have is how much weight do you think we should give to whatever the state people come up with in terms of guidelines, implementation efforts? I understand that by January 30th, I believe, personal possession is going to be allowed, but they're planning on delaying everything else till they figure out what to do. Do you think we should follow that and wait until they have something to say?
Me? Yeah, absolutely.
You think we should wait?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'd make the comment that you know, whatever the state guidelines in that are what should be used, but the biggest question is, and you've just heard from both sides, you know, does Caribou even want to engage in having retail marijuana sales here in Caribou? And again, as Mr. Martin says, when you go by the vote, you go by the vote in the state, yes, but if you go by the vote in Caribou, no. Because the majority of citizens here don't want it. So that's the decision that'll have to be made first. If the decision is to allow it, then yes, we definitely would have to go with whatever regulations and recommendations the state comes up with.
And I guess I'd like to clarify that whatever is put in place initially for the city of Caribou can always be altered down the road. And so if Caribou basically, says no in accordance to what the majority of its citizens have stated, if 5 years from now or 2 years from now situations change, there's nothing preventing the city of Caribou at that time to reconsider and to alter the decision if that's the feeling of the citizens.
Plus, we can't always go by the majority vote. I don't know about anyone out in the audience, but how many times has someone been elected by the majority vote, and the next thing you know it, everybody's very displeased? We don't know what recreational marijuana is going to look like in the state of Maine. We only know what it looks like illegally. And ever since this has passed, it's more predominant when you go in stores. It's more predominant when you go out anywhere. You can smell it. It used to be something that was hidden. So we don't know what this is going to look like in 5 years. And in 5 years, we don't know if the federal government's going to deny it again. And the state of Maine denies it again. I would rather have somebody else be the person who tries to put it in their community and take lessons from there if it's something we end up having to do. But Caribou bases a lot of its decisions on the community, and the community has said no.
I want to point out something that City Manager Austin Glees sent us a variety of publications and information that stem from other areas. And one of the things that kind of was interesting to me was that and I'm going to quote this, that the marijuana of today is not of the same potency of the marijuana of the Woodstock era. That it's at least 4 times stronger, maybe more, depending on which report you're reading. And so if there are some in Caribou who have experienced marijuana of the Woodstock era, I guess we're dealing with a different drug today, that it is much more potent, and therefore the effects are longer lasting. I will say that the Chief of Caribou Police, who is present tonight, has gone on record as saying that he is opposed to our selling, and that some of the literature that was provided to us has to do with operating vehicles under the influence of marijuana and what that does to the safety of the roads. And I would think that that's one of the main reasons why the Caribou Police is not in favor of this, amongst other reasons. So I guess at this point, does anybody else have anything else?
I guess the only point I'd make is that, whether it's legal here or whether it's sold here or not, the people that are going to want to use it, if it's legal in the state, are going to get it. If they live in Caribou, they'll get it somewhere else. So as far as any effects that, we're certainly not going to stop any of the effects of what it does to traffic use not in Caribou, because people that want it are going to get it regardless. So.
Yeah, they have been all along.
Yeah, it's nothing new. People who want it are already getting it.
Exactly.
But in a prior planning board role in another state, I was educated in the phrase attractive nuisance. And I have a personal concern about if we have retail shops, even if they are tightly regulated, they are an attractive nuisance, and there will be young people attempting to get around the system. And I'm not really anxious to dangle more temptation out there.
Decrease that amount of temptation to them, you know, I mean, it's evident now in alcohol, their means to get it, I mean, and if we don't have that particular that type of business in town here, then that'll lessen that potential for some of those, let's say, people who are mobile enough to get across town and into other towns in order to seek what they're looking for.
Good evening. Many of you know me. Those of you that don't, I'm Leo Trudell. I'm the Executive Director of Safe Alternatives, the only medical marijuana dispensary here in Aroostook County, District 8. I heard what people have to say. I'd just like to weigh in a little bit in terms of throwing some caution to the wind. First, let me say that I voted no on the referendum. However, at the same time, I'm listening to the arguments, and I would respectfully ask you to think about, yes, I understand that a small majority of your residents ended up voting for it. However, at the same time, not a lot of people voted for Trump. And does that mean that Hillary is our president? No, it doesn't. The law was passed. In regards to some of the ill effects that are taking place, currently with alcohol in this, in the state, but also here right in town, you just issued, over the last year, 2 bar licenses. I tried to get in the other day to the one behind down by Plords.
Oh, yeah.
And
The warehouse you're talking
yeah,
about?
the warehouse.
Yeah.
And the parking was horrendous. If you want to talk about potential dangers, there's quite a few potential dangers there. You have a speakeasy right now behind Dodo's that nobody seems to want to address. It's an elephant that's in the room that everybody seems to not pay attention to for whatever reason, and I don't know why. And they've been selling illegally for quite a while. You say you're a business-friendly community. I've yet to see it from where I sit. We have the potential to bring some jobs to Caribou, and they're relatively decent paying jobs. And we are regulated. In terms of what you can do, in terms of knowing whether or not there's an individual that's inebriated, it's my understanding that you have a detection officer, which is that correct? You do. And they're few and far between, but you have one. So honestly, I don't know how much water that actually holds. Also, at the end of the month, when it does pass, everybody and anybody who's over 21 years old can grow 6 plants. And that's indoor or outdoor, and you know that 6 plants could easily be 12 or a number more than 6, like it currently is with a lot of the medical patients. So, I guess what I'm saying is take a look at the bigger picture. You're going to have it. You're going to have it in large amounts. And I can tell you that we are the smallest dispensary in the entire state by a large majority. And the reason being is because people up here have such green thumbs. Your term, attractive nuisance, I understand where you're coming from. However, you have the ability to put a limitation. And if you wanted to, you could only have one shop in the town. The state is going to allow dispensaries, medical marijuana dispensaries, to dispense. Maybe not here in Caribou. However, they are offering the ability for medical marijuana dispensaries to dispense.
Excuse me, Mr. Trudeau. This discussion is about retail, it's not about medical.
I understand, but the two, when I'm saying dispensing, I'm saying to be able to dispense retail.
Are you saying that the state medical marijuana powers that be will be encouraging the medical dispensaries to sell for recreational purposes?
They will give us the opportunity to.
Now, when you say the opportunity, within the confines of the community you're settled in?
No, actually, it can go, we could, if we wanted to, we could deliver statewide.
Medically.
Well, that's,
Tonight we're more interested in recreational.
I understand, but what I'm saying is the state will allow medical marijuana dispensaries to sell retail down the road.
Now, when you say retail,
That's
you're
a
talking
guess.
recreational.
Correct, yes.
That's a guess, you don't know that.
It was part of the bill.
I thought it was part of somebody's proposed amendment to the bill, which hasn't passed yet.
Let me ask you, who would be in a better position to be able to serve the people than the dispensaries that have been in the business, and I'm the longest one, for 6 years?
I'm just trying to figure out whether you are taking a position for retail or against retail, because I'm hearing mixed messages.
And that's a good point. I guess what I'm trying to do is educate and shed some light on some of the confusion that's taking place here as you're going back and forth.
I don't consider it actually to be confusion. I do find a little bit of confusion with the whole business-friendly thing. Business-friendly does not mean that this community is going to put businesses that are not a fit to the community ahead of the community.
As in, we couldn't open a bunch of strip clubs?
As in, we'll even go without any of that. If something wanted to open up and it was a big factory and it was going to dump all kinds of pollutants in the river, that's not what the community wants. That has nothing to do with any marijuana or any legislation. The community doesn't want that type of stuff. Does that mean we're not business friendly? No, but we're community oriented. That's what sets Caribou apart from a lot of other communities. And when we had visioning sessions and decided what the goal was and where Caribou was headed, nowhere in that did we ever even talk about these kind of things. Should we have? Maybe, but that wasn't in the vision.
What I hear is your opinion.
This is true.
And your opinion does not say we.
And when I said we, I'm talking about when it wasn't just me at the visioning session.
I'm willing to take any questions if you have any.
I guess I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask it based on all kinds of bits of information that I've heard. I have 2 sons, neither one that smokes marijuana. Both of them have tried, though, I'm sure. But I respect their opinions a lot. And I've had discussions with them about what would happen if marijuana was legalized. And of course, I was in the position of all the problems it could cause and everything else. And both of them are of the same opinion. They both have said, do you really think a whole bunch of people that aren't smoking it now are going to start smoking it? You know, and we've made the comment that, you know, those that are smoking it now already have access to it. So I guess my question is, how big a business do you think this will be, considering your green thumb comment as well about this area? You know, even when now that it is legal, how many people do you think are actually going to be going out to buy it, as opposed to those that now can use it legally maybe have been growing it all along, would just continue to grow it. And I don't, my sons have convinced me that a lot of people that are not smoking it aren't going to start just because it's legal.
I would agree. I would agree. And I would also agree that that you're going to find less of it on the black market as a result, once it becomes legal. You're going to find less shady deals taking place. The other thing that I would also say is simply the fact that in general, there has been, there's an economist from Harvard that specifically states that there's going to be a curve. There's going to be an increase, but it's going to be ever so slight increase for people that haven't tried it and people that want to try it. And it would be no different than if alcohol was becoming legal as well. And at that point, you're going to have a slight increase in the curve. It's going to taper off, and then it's going to level back down. And I would ask you to look that study up.
Yeah, it's not, we are in a position where, you know, if it's legalized here, you have Canada, but Canada's going to legalize marijuana probably this coming spring. The government up there is going to do it countrywide. So we're not going to have a bunch of people from Canada running over here to get it because it's now legal. We're pretty far north for anybody from Massachusetts or anything to be coming up here to get it. I mean, I don't know how much difference it really would make here. Don't misunderstand me. I don't agree with selling it here. That's not my position. And one of the biggest reasons, I'm not concerned about the smoking of marijuana, because I don't think there's going to be a big change in that. I'm concerned with it being used as an additive for food and everything else, and what's going to happen with that, with kids and so on. I don't think the smoking of marijuana is going to be a big deal, but I am very concerned about the other part and how well that gets controlled. You know, somebody buys it, takes it home, who's going to get their hands on it, what's going to happen to it. You know, you're not going to have 6-year-old kids picking up and rolling a marijuana cigarette and smoking them, but they sure might be eating some brownies that are sitting on the table or something like that. So that's where my concern is with the whole aspect.
And it's a valid concern. I would say that your concern would be the same with tobacco products that have been geared towards younger taste buds. I would say that it's similar to alcohol products that have been geared towards younger taste buds. And I would also say that it will be dispensed in containers that are hard to open.
So I got one question. So when you said a dispensary will be able to sell retail, is that right?
Yes.
As
Recreational.
Yep, okay. Okay. So if you set up Shop in Caribou as a medicinal dispensary, somebody could go there and buy marijuana from you at some point.
If you put this moratorium into effect or essentially make Caribou a dry town, no. Because
It still has to be approved by the city.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it would be a change, because you're
Because we're going to
because you're doing medical right now.
Correct.
Without any retail.
and because we're going to comply with the laws like we always have.
Yep.
Again, unlike your speakeasy that people aren't taking seriously.
If I can add a portion, I know that in the state of Washington, the black market really hasn't been impacted negatively by legalizing marijuana there. The prices have changed, but the black market is still just as active. People just pay the dealer rather than paying the store. That's what I've heard from my colleagues in that state over the last years. The black market still thrives well, so I don't think it would do anything to change the black market in Aroostook County or Caribou.
supply and demand, it makes that not even a logical statement.
Oh, yeah, yes it does, because people will go to black market to avoid paying the taxes.
I also go to black market, not just to avoid paying the taxes, but to be discreet about it as well. You know, and somebody's gonna see them walking into a store, oh, look what this guy's doing. I know what kind of store that is, I know where he's going, what's he up to? Regardless whether it's legal or not, it's gonna be public interpretation, you know.
Well, then we should have one here so that people from the valley and Holton can come buy their marijuana. And we can go to Holton or go to Bangor. I mean, come on.
If people want to be discreet, they'll send somebody else. It has happened for a long time.
But if they've got the channel and the source that they're paying right now to do it, why are they gonna change that? I mean, people are creatures of habit. If they're going down the street to get it from Jimmy, regardless of what Jimmy's charging compared to what the store's gonna be, he's gonna continue going there.
Why do something illegal if you can do it?
He's not gonna be doing it illegal at that point.
I guess I would refer back to your statement in regards to, are that many people going to be doing it? From a supply side versus a demand side, there's only going to be so much. The demand is only going to be so much. If the demand stays stable and there's an open retail market, then
Well, the market still is gonna be open retail according to the state of Maine. It's just a matter of what this workshop is about, is that something we want in our community? That's what the workshop's about. I mean, that passed. We're not here to debate really whether or not it's legal, because it is now, or whether or not, you know, somebody can go buy it, or if they're gonna get it off the black market, or where they're gonna get it. It's, do we want this type of business here? And because it's a federal drug, Schedule I drug, and still against the law nationally, then we have the right to decide whether or not we want that here.
Well, even if it wasn't federally illegal, I mean, we could, as was mentioned about the dry towns, I mean, we could decide no alcohol is to be sold, and alcohol is a legal commodity federally as well as state. So, I mean, the communities have control over their own
Right.
rules.
But I mean, that's really what this is supposed to be about. The rest of it, we don't have any control over, but we do have a level of local control over what we want in our community.
Any other questions for this gentleman?
thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh. Roped in. Austin, should we be looking for, I mean, we cannot take legal action. Are we just looking for anything further? Or because this is gonna go to the, I'm not sure if this is gonna go to the council next, or if it's gonna come back to the planning board for an ordinance, or,
I think we're gonna have to come up with an
We're gonna
ordinance
have
for
to, we can't do
recreational.
that here, this is a workshop.
right.
At some point, we're gonna have to come up with a consensus as to how we wanna move forward. And from there, if we don't do that tonight, we can do that at the next planning board meeting, but we're gonna have to come up with a consensus and forward that along to the city council.
So then if I were to ask for a show of hands, is that considered a vote, or is that considered
No, it's-
just determining consensus? Okay. Well, then I guess I would start with a show of hands of who is in favor of marijuana being sold in the city of retail, recreational marijuana in Caribou. Raise your hand.
You're just asking your committee, are you?
Well, I'm asking,
I mean, in all honesty, I don't see any sense in asking this room when you're
Okay.
talking about a community of 8,000 people. You just,
No, the only people you can ask are
okay.
board members.
Anybody on this board in favor of it? Who on this board is opposed? Well, that's the planning board's opinion.
And we'll draft language, we'll work with the city attorney and bring some proposed language to our next planning board meeting for review and action, further action.
Well, there'll need to be a public hearing.
We'll take the appropriate steps.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, or anything?
Yeah, I had a question. I took a look at the packet that was included with this meeting, and I read an interesting statistic. I think they were provided by an organization called SAM. But the statistic I read was that for every $1 profit made from recreational marijuana, it cost the city $10 in regulatory and health and other costs. And I'm just wondering if that applies, if that would apply to Caribou specifically, if that statistic is based on a national average per se.
I provided that
Okay,
information.
yeah.
I'm Kim Parent. I'm with Power Prevention, which is a program with Perry Medical Center, and I specialize in substance abuse prevention and do a lot of education around marijuana and other substances in Caribou North is my service area. And that comes from Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Okay. And most of their data comes out of Colorado. So what they found with that statistic is that for every dollar that they get in tax revenue in Colorado, like $10 goes out like in other costs, because what they've seen is an increase in homelessness, increase in emergency room visits, and law enforcement with the drug driving. So that's where those statistics come from, and they also come from data around like tobacco sales and alcohol, dealing with health issues from those substances as well, lessons learned in the past.
Okay. Do
So
you know how?
are the statistics just for marijuana, or are they for marijuana, alcohol?
And
crack?
tobacco, we'll look at all the health issues we've had with tobacco.
What I'm
is
saying is
legalized.
statistics that he's referring to. For every dollar that is taken in, you spend $10. Is that
If that's
just on?
if that's from the one pager that you got, is that the one with the graphs on it that?
It was.
No,
it was several.
it's the top 10 messages
I
against.
think that would be just marijuana specific. They
Okay.
usually citate on those forums, if you look on the thing, all the research is cited on those documents. So if you needed more information about it, you could click on that citation if you went to the online source, and it would tell you more about it.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head how it's how it contributed to homelessness? That was something you mentioned earlier.
I don't have the facts and figures
Okay.
in my mind, but in
Yeah,
Colorado, in Denver,
Denver
when they,
was 500%.
yeah.
Increase in homelessness?
Wow.
Yeah.
But is that because people just
Yeah.
moved there because it was legal? Like if you lived in a different state and you wanted free,
Well, in
you get free
Colorado-
weed, you just go to, is that why it's?
Homelessness is homelessness.
Well,
No, I know, but if you lived in Maine and you said, hey,
They
I
didn't
wanna
have
go
it
there
before, and they
Right.
had a 500% increase.
because they
after.
legalized the marijuana.
Right.
So people are moving there.
Yeah, and because in Colorado, not every city, it's like Maine, not every city voted to be able to sell it in their city. So because Denver allowed legalization and the retail sales, people move there to get it. Then you have all these other issues that come with using and addiction and the like, so.
When he asked about it,
Yeah, it's like there's the citations, so you can follow the citations and you can get more information.
Yeah, I didn't see those. I just skimmed over it this morning.
Could I make a
Yeah,
comment?
so it's all
Could I make a comment on what the manager sent out? I think that was a very biased, I mean, the manager should have sent out stuff from both sides. It was just all one-sided.
Is there stuff from the other side?
Well, I would think so.
Scientific, with scientific references, et cetera?
Did you give the stuff to the manager?
No.
Oh, okay.
Hey, man.
I think we should have an ordinance against apple pie, sugar.
Oh,
There's a lot of bad stuff out there.
I'm glad you're having fun.
Now we're gonna start regulating. Okay, let's go for it.
Glad you're having fun.
Yes, sir.
If you're looking for information that pertains to,
Positive aspects?
yes, I would recommend taking a look at two specific sources. One is the Marijuana Policy Project, as well as NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. They've been doing this a long time. The policy project is specific to, has a lot of information that's specific to medical, which may also give you some insight going forward with elements and relief of pain, as well as limiting opiate addictions.
Okay.
You happy to look at it?
Anybody else, anything?
Well, the reason I asked about that statistic of $10 for every $1 is I'm wondering if it would be possible, or if any of you have considered maybe doing a preemptive study to see if that would apply to Caribou in the same way, and if it does, maybe make a decision from there, or if that's something that is even possible because you can't predict it.
I think it's beyond our capability.
All right.
I mean, that study was done after the
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
so it'd be pretty hard unless everybody wants to register with me.
What's that?
If everybody wants to register with me that smoke marijuana, I'd be happy to start that statistics.
I think because the whole state is gonna be legal, that people aren't gonna move to Caribou to get free marijuana, or to get legalized marijuana.
Yeah.
It's all throughout the state, so I don't
That's-
think it's gonna increase the homelessness.
You're not, part of the law, as I understand it, is that every community is gonna have the right to decide if it's there or not. So I think it's a little premature to say it's gonna be all over the state.
Well, I
The
mean,
potential's there.
yeah, it's legal. It's gonna be legal in the state.
Well, I think, and I haven't studied the vote tallies, but yes, it passed more than 50% statewide, but my general understanding is that I would think that a lot more of southern Maine, Portland area voted for passage than rural or northern Maine, is my expectation. That's just a personal opinion, but, so I think that you're probably gonna see a number of communities in southern Maine sell it, and maybe not so much other areas.
Yeah, and even then, the margin was within the legal recall limits, the automatic recall trigger limits.
Yeah. We all set? Thank you. Workshop adjourned.